In this video, I will provide introduction to Selenium WebDriver automation testing under C# environment. These are the topics which will be covered. We will introduce Selenium WebDriver. We'll talk about the background history, who created it, what are the different versions of it, and why is it so popular compared to other automation libraries or tools available, and who currently is responsible for maintaining and updating it. I'll also talk about the development environment, mainly the IDE, most popular IDE used for C#, which is Visual Studio. So we'll cover how to set up Visual Studio for automation testing with Selenium WebDriver and the required Selenium WebDriver packages or libraries which are needed for automation testing. I will also talk about test setup, how to create automation test, importing the required classes or libraries, how to set up the framework, unit test framework, and how to run the tests. We'll do a simple test for a typical web-based application and go through the different steps involved in creating those tests and then executing them. Selenium WebDriver introduction. So what is Selenium WebDriver? Selenium WebDriver is a free open source library of classes which are used for performing automation testing of browser-based applications. So it supports all the popular browsers such as IE, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Opera. It can use different languages to create automation scripts, and it's one of the most popular automation testing library available currently. There are other automation tools also such as Qtp, which now is called UFT, and of course Microsoft's Coded UI automation testing tool, but Selenium is most popular among them. We'll talk about why it's so popular because of its support for multiple languages, platforms, and browsers, and also it's free and open source, whereas some other tools you have to purchase licenses for them. Selenium was created in 2004 by an engineer named Jason Huggins, who worked for a company called ThoughtWorks. So he mainly used JavaScript to create this automation testing with Selenium. Then Google adopted Selenium and they made improvement to it, and Simon Stewart at Google made significant improvements, so in replacing JavaScript with APIs which can directly test those browsers. So this Selenium WebDriver was released, which included these enhancements, was released in 2011. There are different versions or editions of Selenium available. First one is called Selenium IDE, which is basically record and playback add-on to Firefox. So you can record the different actions on the browser and then play it back to do the testing. You can this Selenium IDE can also generate a code, Selenium code, which you can use in for automation testing and can utilize other browsers also for testing, such as IE or Chrome. Then there's another version of Selenium which was previous to Selenium WebDriver, which is called Selenium RC. It injects the JavaScript function into browser for testing, and it injects the JavaScript when the browser web page is loaded on the browser. However, this Selenium RC is deprecated and has been replaced by Selenium WebDriver now. And there is another version of Selenium called Selenium Grid. It is used for running tests on many servers at the same time, cutting down on the time it takes to test multiple browsers or operating systems. So you want to run tests simultaneously on different browsers and servers, then you use Selenium Grid. Selenium has very wide support of different languages, so such as you can use C# language, you can use Java. Java is very popular language, object-oriented programming language, which can be used for creating Selenium scripts, Selenium WebDriver scripts, and then other languages such as Python, PHP, Perl can also be, Ruby can also be used. So it has a wide array of languages you can use. Similarly, it supports many operating systems also, such as Windows, Mac, Linux, and you can also support cross-browser support, whereas some other automation tools do not have that capability. One important website which you should know is Selenium HQ.org. So if we go to Google and type Selenium WebDriver, the first site which will come on the top of search results is Selenium WebDriver site called SeleniumHQ.org. So if you go there, this is the site where you will find the latest and greatest versions of Selenium WebDriver, and you can download it from there directly. But when you are using IDE such as Visual Studio, you can use NuGet packages from Visual Studio directly to download the required packages. But just to be aware that you can get these software directly from Selenium HQ also. So here, if you go into download section, there you can download Selenium WebDriver, different, and then you can also download driver for Internet Explorer and other browsers. And depending upon which language you are using, you can download those language bindings from here also. And these are the drivers for different browsers which are supported. So there's a lot of useful software and information here you can get regarding Selenium. You can go to documentation section and review the documentation also. So now let's go back to our slides. Next one is development environment. So since we are going to use C# language for our development of automation tests, so the development environment, or IDE, integrated development environment, which is most useful and effective for C# is Visual Studio. The different editions of Visual Studios like Visual Studio Professional, Visual Studio um, Enterprise, and Visual Studio, but these are paid editions of Visual Studio. You can use there's a free version of Visual Studio also, which is called Visual Studio Community. So for development of non-commercial application, you can use this free version also, and it will work for you can create automation test scripts using Visual Studio Community Edition. So if you go to Google and just type we download Visual Studio Community 2015, it will give you a link from where you can download this free version of Visual Studio Community Edition, and which is more than enough to do your automation test development with Selenium WebDriver. There are other versions also like Visual Studio Professional, Visual Studio Enterprise, Visual Studio Code. You can get free trial versions of Enterprise and Professional, but after I think for 30 days it will expire and you have to pay for it if you want to continue to use it. Alright, so once you have installed Visual Studio, then you can set up a Visual Studio solution or project so that you can start your development. So let's start a new project solution just to show you how it works. So you go just say new project, and under templates go to Visual Studio C# and choose test and unit test, and you can just call it test project 1. You can create a separate directory for solution, but in here we are just going to use same directory for solution in the project, and you just let's call it Visual Studio Test Project 2. So once the project is created, you will see that there is one test class created automatically called unit test.1. So you can rename it whatever you want. So you can call it my test1.cs. So this will be your test class. And here in your test class, you see that on the top there are some import statements using system, using Microsoft.visualstudio.testtools.unit testing, and you'll need some more packages also or libraries also which are required to do the test automation testing using Selenium WebDriver. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Then next is namespace. Basically this is just a location where that class is located on the folder structure. And then there is a decoration called test class. That means it's this class will include tests, and test method is a decoration which is used, which will have the test methods where we will write the actual test cases of Selenium WebDriver. So this is the basic structure of the test, but we will add actual test cases in the test method, and once we run those tests, the results will be shown here in Test Explorer window. You see that window. If for some reason that's not showing up, you can go to the test menu and click on Windows and click on Test Explorer, and it will show you the Test Explorer window. So this is basically your test class, which will have the test cases. Now this is This class can be used for your running Microsoft unit testing, but in order to run Selenium WebDriver tests, you will need Selenium WebDriver packages or classes also imported here. So instead, one way is like you can get it from seleniumhq.org and download those software or those classes and import it into this project. But the easiest way is to use NuGet packages, and it will automatically download and those packages and set it up in your project. The way you can do is like click on references and go to manage NuGet packages. So, and here you can search for those Selenium libraries which we want to install. So you'll just type in Selenium, and there you'll see selenium.webdriver and selenium.support. So these are the two packages you will need. So you'll just select those and click on install, and install selenium.webdriver. Similarly, select selenium.support. So you'll not need both of these packages. Once you have installed those, they will show up in your under your references folder. Now this one is done. Now next thing is I'll show you. We'll show you a sample test case where you'll see those packages installed. So in this section, we will create a test. We will let's we'll see how different libraries are used in test framework and run the test. So let's go to Visual Studio and we'll open existing test just to save some time of typing it. We'll just open in the test case test files. So here is a project which we opened, and we will run the test. We will look at the test automation test class, which is called Google search.test. This is a sample Selenium WebDriver test automation test, and we will first review the different sections within this test. So just like I mentioned before, in the top you will see the different packages which are required to run those tests. You'll see using statements, and here once you have installed the Selenium packages, if you go into under reference section, you will see WebDriver and WebDriver.spot. These are the packages which we installed from NuGet packages. Then look using NuGet package manager, and once you have installed, then you'll put these statements using openqa.selenium and then using openqa.selenium.firefox. Since we'll be using the default browser Firefox in this tutorial, and then the namespace is just the location of the classes of your project, test class and test method. So let's see the test method and what are the different scripts which we have written in this test method. So the task method is called test search. There are different in a typical application. Basically, this is the flow which you will see. So if we go to the different steps which will be involved when we create automation tests for a typical web-based application. First thing we need to do is open the browser and then navigate to the application under test by providing the URL for it. Then once the web page is open, you will see different elements on the page. For example, there could be text boxes, buttons, radio buttons, links, drop-down boxes, etc. All these are elements, so you need to locate those elements before you can perform any action on them. And then once you have located them, you can perform action. For example, in the text box, you can enter text. On the button, on the submit button, you can click submit to submit the text you have entered. And once you have performed the action, you will see some result. And the result should match what the expected result is. So that's your validation of the retest to make sure that you got the result which is expected. That part, just like a step 4 you can do, and if your actual result and expected result match, then your test case pass, otherwise it will fail. So let's review a simple test case in which we are going to go to google.com, that's a Google application, and enter some text in the search box and click on the submit button. So just like I mentioned before, test method is the section which will have the code for actual automation testing. So first thing we will do is we have to create the driver instance for the browser which we want to use. So that's the command which is used for it. WebDriver driver is equal to new Firefox driver. So in this case, we are going to use Firefox, which is the default browser for Selenium WebDriver. However, if you want to use IE or Chrome, you have to download the driver for it, and then instead of Firefox, you will change this statement to use that particular browser. So it's pretty straightforward, but we'll cover it in some other video. Then next, once you have created the instance of the WebDriver, then next step is to navigate to the URL of the application which you want to test. So here we are navigating to www.google.com, and once it's gone there, I put some wait command, hard-coded wait. Normally in your actual code you will not avoid putting hard-coded wait statements, but here just for demonstration purposes I'm just putting that wait, just so that the execution slows down a little bit and you can understand what's going on, or you can see what's going on. So once you have reached that google.com, next thing we want to we'll see that there is a text box where you can enter your whatever you are searching for. So you have to locate that element, which is the search text box. So this statement is doing that. So iWebDriver.find element, we are finding that element by its name, which in this particular case is Q. And once we have located that element, then we are going to put text into it. So we are going to send keys is a command which you use to send, is the method which you use to send that text into that text box. So we are going to put hello Selenium WebDriver as a text in that text box. Then again we'll put some wait, and then we'll click on the submit button and you'll see the result there. And in the end, you'll see we are going to close the browser. So this is basically very simple automation test script, but it demonstrates you what the sequence is to do the testing, and it can become complicated depending upon what you are trying to test and what kind of application it is. But anyway, let's run this test and see the results. So in order to run this test, click anywhere within the test method. This is one way of running the test. You can run it from left hand side also. If in the test explorer, click on the test you want to run, and click on right click on it and run selected test. But let's run it from within the test method. So click anywhere in the test method, right click on it anywhere, and then select run test. So that will launch the browser. In this case it is Firefox browser, and then it will navigate to the URL which we provided, which is google.com. In the text box it will enter the text and then click that search button, and you'll see the results, and then it will close the browser. So that completed this test. We did not perform validation here, where basically what you could have done is, like, once it reaches that page, you can choose any of the result and compare it with what expected result should be, and if they are equal, our test would pass. But that we will cover in some other video. But here we are just kind of going to that page and seeing that visually seeing that it has reached there. So on the left hand side in the text player explorer, you see the results, that the check mark shows that this test has passed. So this is a very simple automation test, but it demonstrates you how the development of the test get work and how you execute it. So I'll try to create, I think that's all for today. So hope you learned something from this video, and if you have any questions or comments, let me know about it. Thank you.